So we have reached the month of June, and with that, we now have a new Memorial Cup champion. Last night, the Saginaw Spirit winning the national junior hockey title on home ice. What a game it was last night. It was quite the way to end the 2024 Memorial Cup. It was dominated by the OHL teams, and really no surprise seeing London and Saginaw go at it once again. And for London, going into the game, they were the heavy favorites. They only lost 2 games in the postseason since the end of the OHL regular season. And those 2 losses, though, against the Saginaw Spirit. So you kind of wondered, could the Spirit, being on home ice, upset the London Knights? And that's exactly what we got. But it was in dramatic fashion. The Saginaw Spirit dominated the game for the most part. It took 16 minutes for the London Knights registered their first shot of the hockey game. And the Saginaw Spirit, of course, they would go up 3-0 before the Knights would get back into the hockey game. But before that, near the end of the first period, Landon Sim being ejected from the game, given a 5-minute major as he had head contact on Zane Parekh. And I know there's some fans who are upset with the call. They don't agree with the fact that it should have been a 5-minute major, but if you look at the replay, Landon Sim kind of gets that elbow up before making contact with Zane Parekh. And I know there's those same fans that kind of felt Parekh went down a little easy on some other plays, but it's kind of hard to pretend an injury when you're taking an elbow towards the head area. But either way, I'm not going to get into that debate. It ended up being the major. So Landon Sim, who is a key player for this London Knights team all year long, ended up missing out on the finale for the Memorial Cup. And for the London Knights all year long, they did ride that fine line. They tried to play that intimidating style, especially if they found themselves behind. They play that physical game to get back into the hockey game, but Saginaw kept that foot down to the floor, pedal to the metal, and were able to continue that pace up until the second period where Kasper Hultinen ended up making it a 3-1 score. And just before that goal went in, I was texting back and forth with a friend of mine, and I said, don't count London out, even though they were being heavily outshot and down 3-0. And that's exactly what happened. The London Knights, a threat all year with that offense. It came through. Easton Cowan recording a goal and 3 assists in the comeback. However, it would fall short as Josh Bloom going to the net, found it sitting there right behind Michael Simpson with just over 20 seconds left in the game, and was able to bury it. It was quite the finish. And you'll remember Josh Bloom, he used to play with the Saginaw Spirit and then last year traded to North Bay. The battalion did not retain his rights as he was an overager this season, and the Vancouver Canucks, sending Bloom back down to junior hockey, he decided to sign with the Saginaw Spirit. And boy, oh boy, did that signing pay off as he gets the game winner to win the Saginaw Spirit their first ever Memorial Cup title. So it was such a great game. And really, it was that third period. You were on the edge of your seat trying to figure out who was going to win it. Could London pull off the come from behind win? Would Saginaw get the victory? I was expecting overtime with the way the game went, but Josh Bloom, of course, getting that game winner. And then Owen Beck being named MVP for the Memorial Cup. Beck, of course, another big addition at the OHL trade deadline, picking him up from the Peterborough Petes. And that's where one of those trade deadline day trades really paid off because Owen Beck got the scoring started in the Memorial Cup final. And of course, he was at the Memorial Cup last year at the Petes, and the Petes run fell short. But this year, he was able to solve his former netminder because, of course, Michael Simpson, also a former member of that Peterborough Petes team. But overall, it was an exciting Memorial Cup, and it's ends that Quebec League streak at 4 Memorial Cup titles as the OHL wins its first Memorial Cup championship since 2017. And the goal scoring in this tournament was something else. It was a lot of fun to follow. The top scorers, I'm going to go over the top 10 from the Memorial Cup because these are names expect to hear at the next level at the National Hockey League. Starting off, Easton Cowan, the Toronto Maple Leafs prospect, ended the tournament, 3 goals, 5 assists, good for 8 points. And like I said, a goal and 2 assists alone in the Memorial Cup final as he nearly got the London Knights to come back to win the title, but just fell short. Denton Matejchuk from the Moose Jaw Warriors, second in scoring, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Not too bad for Moose Jaw as they appeared at their first Memorial Cup. Obviously, the team would have liked to have gone on to the final, but lost 7-1 in the semifinal to the Saginaw Spirit, but still great showing there from the Moose Jaw Warriors. They also had the third best scorer in the tournament, Braden Yeager, 3 goals, 3 assists, good for 6 points. And then Josh Bloom leading the way for the Saginaw Spirit, 2 goals, 4 assists, good for 6 points. Oliver Bonk, the Philadelphia Flyers prospect, having a great tournament for the London Knights, ended the tournament with a goal and 5 assists, good for 6 points. Kasper Holtonen, 4 goals and an assist. He had 5 points in the tournament. Owen Beck, who of course was named MVP last night, ended the Memorial Cup with 4 goals and an assist, good for 5 points. Rodwin Denizio, 8th in scoring at the tournament. He had a goal and 4 assists, good for 5 points. Zane Parekh, expect to hear his name probably in the top 10 of the upcoming NHL draft. He had a goal and 4 assists, good for 5 points at the Memorial Cup. And a name we're going to hear at next year's NHL draft, which is Michael Misa. No goals to his credit, but still 5 assists as he had a pretty good showing for the Saginaw Spirit at the Memorial Cup. But Michael Misa is going to be interesting to follow going into the next season's play for the OHL. Does he stick around in Saginaw? Does he move on? That's going to be a big question mark for the Saginaw Spirit because remember, they traded away a lot of assets into this Host Memorial Cup year. So Michael Misa, great tournament, but what happens next year? That's the big question mark. And of course, next year, the Memorial Cup is in the QMJHL, the Rimouski Oceanic. They're going to be hosting it. They've hosted the tournament before. I believe it was back in 2009 was when they hosted the last Memorial Cup. And that was when the Windsor Spitfires, of course, won that tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see how Rimouski does next year. But you always expect that the host team is going to buy and be very competitive. Although the host team at a CHL Memorial Cup hasn't won their league championship since 2008. The last team to do that was the Kitchener Rangers. So a big challenge there for Rimouski going forward. But also, don't be surprised if we hear the London Knights as a team that could be competing for the Memorial Cup again next year. I did a whole series on the channel about each team going into the offseason and their overager situation, their roster, and what to expect going into next year. So I did a whole series on that. There's a playlist, the 2024 offseason. I did all 20 OHL teams talking about that. So you'll want to check that out if you're wanting to catch up with where things are at going into next season. But all in all, a great tournament held there by the Saginaw Spirit. The city of Saginaw doing a great job. Even Frankenmuth outside of Saginaw, I know they hosted a lot of the parties away from the city, and a lot of the teams were there too. So really, Central Michigan doing a great job hosting the Memorial Cup. And maybe 20 years or less, the Memorial Cup will be back in Saginaw. And I'm sure the Flint Firebirds, they'd like to host a Memorial Cup at some point too. So we'll have to wait and see. We now know that Michigan, or Central Michigan at least, can host a Memorial Cup, but we'll just have to wait and see down the road. Now, I just wanted to also touch on some news items because it's the start of the offseason officially, as the 23-24 OHL season is now in the books. And some teams are still looking to fill their head coaching vacancies. And it sounds like the Owen Sound Attack may be on the verge of naming their next head coach. The Attack, they're one of 3 teams right now looking to hire a new coach, Sudbury and Windsor. They're the other 2 teams. I'm not sure when we'll hear this official announcement, but it might be before the end of the week. And it's from what I'm hearing is it could be an assistant coach coming from the Eastern Conference. I haven't been able to confirm it yet, but it sounds like it's an assistant coach from the Eastern Conference that's going to get a head coaching opportunity with the Owen Sound Attack. But we'll have to wait for confirmation on that, of course. And we're still waiting to find out who takes over in Windsor and Sudbury. It sounds like Greg Walters is being considered for both of those positions. His suspension, it does come to an end this month. So we should find out soon if Walters is in fact going to become a head coach again in the Ontario Hockey League. It sounds like Windsor might be the destination, although the Sudbury Wolves also consider in consideration. Although Drake Barahowski, as soon as Ken McKenzie announced his resignation, seemed like the likely candidate to take over with the Sudbury Wolves, but still, I'm a little surprised we haven't heard that transition as of yet. So that's why I think the rumors of Walters going to Sudbury has kind of creeped in there as well. But again, nothing has been official when it comes to that news front. But the coaching carousel, it should be a little bit clearer in the coming weeks. And it sounds like Owen Sound might be the first of the 3 to announce their new head coach. Also, speaking of coaches, the Barrie Colts, they're going to look for a new associate coach going into next season. It was announced late last week. I didn't get to put a video up about it, but Philip Barsky, he's moving on. He was hired as head coach and general manager of the Bloomington Bison. So great opportunity for Barsky. He spent 2 seasons with the Barrie Colts, first as an assistant to Marty Williamson and then as an associate last season. Now the Bison, they play in the ECHL, and it was also announced when they named their coach that they'd be the affiliate to the New York Rangers. So a great opportunity for Barsky as he joins the Bisons for next season. And it is really cool just to see how it works, because the OHL, it's not just a development league for the players. There's also the coaches who are able to move up the ranks. And we see that here with Barsky. And he won't be the last. There'll be other coaches who get opportunities at the next level. But still, some big congratulations to Barsky. And now we just have to wait and see who takes over behind the bench to join Marty Williamson and Barrie. And now that the offseason is here, the channel, I'm going to continue releasing videos, maybe not as often as I was before. It might slow down a bit. We'll have to wait and see. We do have the June trade window that is about to take place. That will close at the end of the month. I'll do any videos of trades that happen between now and the end of the month. And then they take a break for the month of July and early August for trading. And then once we get to training camp towards the end of August, that's when the window opens up again. And rosters will start to take shape, because we're not that far really from the start of the 2024-25 OHL season. And you got to figure the head coaches and the general managers already have their game plan in place of what they want to do this offseason. And it sounds like we might get some moves sooner rather than later. We'll just have to keep tabs on that. And I'll post any videos involving player movement that takes place over the month of June. Also, the NHL draft set for June 28th. So it'll be great to see where the OHLers end up going. I know the Combine is opening up, and Riley Patterson and Cole Baudouin from the Barrie Colts have made their way to Buffalo to take part in the Combine. Of course, Baudouin, potentially a late first-round draft pick at the NHL draft, and then Riley Patterson, maybe second, third-round pick. We'll have to wait and see, but still exciting that the OHLers who are eligible for the upcoming draft will make their way to the Combine. And right now for the NHL draft, it sounds like Zane Parekh or Sam Dickinson, the 2 defensemen we saw at the Memorial Cup, could be the first OHLers who have their names called in the top 10 to the NHL draft. But don't count out Beckett Seneca of the Oshawa Generals. There's some rumblings that maybe he'll go in the top 10. We'll just have to wait and see who's the first OHLer selected. It's always fascinating to see on that front. And I'm also looking to do maybe a few interviews between now and the start of training camp, just to touch base with people associated with the OHL and potentially the Barrie Colts. So stay tuned for that. And I'm also looking to do some team history videos, just to fill some time here on the OHL channel front. And a couple of topics that are off-season worthy. I know there's a lot of questions about expansion. So what cities could see an OHL team in the future? And also playoff format, because there's been some questions about that in regards to how do we get the best on best in the OHL final? Because there's been that debate over the years, which conference is stronger, the West or the East, and it tends to lean towards the Western Conference. So I want to do a video just going over, is there a different format that we could use maybe for the OHL playoffs? So you have all that to look forward to during the off season. So you'll want to subscribe to stay tuned with those videos when they're dropped. Again, thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you for everyone who's subscribed so far on the channel. It's been amazing just to see the growth and the amount of people who keep coming back. Even if they're not subscribed, they're coming back to check out these videos and stay up to date with what's going on in the OHL. So stay tuned for more news videos over the course of the season, or the off season rather, and those team history videos. Thank you very much for all your support, and we'll talk to you again soon.